Dark Souls 3 is a bad sequel. On purpose, it has chosen failure by design. Let me elaborate with a bit of a story. American rock band Brand New decided that they would end on their own terms, declaring through concerts, song lyrics, and even the merch that the band would be ending in 2018, making their run of 18 years have a static end date. If this doesn't make sense so far, just keep following. I promise I'll tie it up. Now, normally this kind of stuff could be seen as a PR stunt to generate discussion, such as when Fortnite ended or when Family Guy killed Brian. These are hollow declarations and honestly end up hurting their own brand rather than helping it most times. But Brand New wasn't really like that. They didn't really interview or do magazine spreads past their second album, Deja Entendu, and when they did, they were few and far between. This was intentional, as frontman Jesse Lacey in a 2010 Kerrang interview states,
"It would have taken minimal effort to turn this into something grandiose, but I think it would have cost me my conscience. We've always tried to consider how we'll feel when we're older and whether we'll be happy with the decisions we've made. Sometimes that's at the expense of lining our pockets, and crazy as it is to admit, we've written songs in the past that we knew could have been huge hits, but we've never used those songs because they would have only been taken and turned into something they were never intended to be. There are bands that can ride that line of mass appeal and beautiful creativity, but I don't think I could trust us to do it."
By declaring their expiration date and making it clear that they had full control of what the band will do, their final album, Science Fiction release, was elevated to even greater levels of hype when it landed in August of 2017. The band is considered a cornerstone of the emo rock genre, even after allegations were levied at Jesse Lacey for misconduct, and I won't be covering that here. The fact of the matter is that's not what this video is about. What I will say is that choosing to end on your own terms, knowing that there isn't a future where your creative endeavor continues to create, it takes some real stones, which is why when I think of this story, I also think of Dark Souls 3. The difference is that bands get to do this. Franchises never do. A franchise only gets to end once it's reached the end of its return on investment, or ROI. In other words, once it's no longer profitable. What is Dark Souls 3 actually about then? The game is about being creatively burnt out. This is something I, and I know many other artists, struggle with internally. The second I realized this, I just had to talk about it. Now, Dark Souls 3 is, as described by one of my favorite YouTubers, Jacob Geller, but the EH is the point. If you had filed this game away as the safe one, you actually ended up missing the bravest thing the series ever did. I can't even say I blame you either. It's hard to see. Dark Souls 3 is no one's favorite entry, and it's no one's hated entry. It stands squarely in the middle of the pack. It does everything correct technically, but feels almost creatively dry. Bankrupt isn't quite the right word, but it is missing that special something that these games usually have that make them feel so unique. It reuses characters from the first game, takes chunks wholesale from the first game's level design. It takes Bloodborne's aggressive slant and on the whole just feels really safe. In fact, most people call this the greatest hits Souls game, and every time that I say that, I think of Guitar Hero Greatest Hits, but like with Dark Souls, and I see that really awful purple and yellow cover in my memory. That was a birthday gift for me, man. And yeah, it is the greatest hits. And yeah, it knows that. The game has its own story to tell because this world is being forced to relive itself over and over and over again, being forced to play the hits. The game chooses to reuse characters in areas because it itself is a product of being forced to recreate itself and running out of gas. The world itself is so gray, so bleak, so ashen. It's burnt out. The previous two games still featured lots of color and contrast despite the world being so dark, I guess that's why they call it that. But 3 really plays into the lack of color. The world is ashen, and ashes are gray, worthless, devoid of color, and serve no purpose other than to symbolize that a fire was in fact once burning here, but no more. That fire is out now, and this world is begging, pleading to just be let go. The sun becomes eclipsed, getting snuffed out. The world begins folding in on itself as if to say, I just can't handle this anymore. The final boss, the Soul of Cinder, is a physical representation of everyone who ever played the game, essentially a eulogy as a boss. And the actual final boss, Gale, is literally every boss fight archetype in the series, and he's fighting like he's got nothing to lose. He even says the thing.
Hand it over, that thing, your dark soul.
The game actually even tells you all this from the beginning, having you fight Udex Gundyr, I think that's how you pronounce it, who seems odd and like a mystery. until you fight him later at the Untended Graves in his full power as Champion Gundyr. He doesn't have the Darkness transformation this time because at this point, he's just a guy trying to stop the world from drowning. If you're still not sure if this clicks quite yet, look no further than what was going on in real life at the time. Look at the output FromSoft was pushing through the early to mid 2010s. Dark Souls 2 in March of 2014, Dark Souls 2 DLCs in July, August, and September of 2014, Bloodborne in March of 2015, Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin in April of 2015, The Old Hunters in November of 2015, Dark Souls 3 in April of 2016, and then its 2 DLCs in October of 2016 and March of 2017. 4 full releases and 6 DLCs in the span of 3 years. That is an insane output, and it's even more insane how all of it was good, like better than the base game in most cases. That said, I can't imagine how tired and burnt out you must be after turning those gears so much. Even if it's all quality work, and even if you get it going through the pipeline efficiently, you can only get so many ideas out there until you just start feeling tired, feeling burnt out creatively. Dark Souls 1 got a year between its October 2011 release and its DLC's August of 2012 release. Well, almost a year. Then the full year and a half between that and Dark Souls 2. Even longer if the team was fully separate from the Bloodborne team. The exhaustion, the burnout, doesn't just come from the visuals and themes of the game, the developers had to be living in it. Miyazaki himself even confirmed that it was time to move away from the Dark Souls franchise. And when they finally just did what they wanted to do and not what they were supposed to do, we got Sekiro. And then, instead of a Sekiro 2, which is what most people would expect, we got Elden Ring. Effectively, the universe where we kept getting Dark Souls games is a universe without Elden Ring. I'd like to transition to something a little more personal for a second. Hey, welcome on in. So this is my closet. This is where I go when I just need some quiet and I need to not be found. And if you have kids, then you probably sympathize with that idea pretty hard. YouTube is difficult, and my other job is difficult, both from a creative sense. And if you've never dealt with creative burnout, it is horrible. It is soul-sucking. It is essentially everything that you believe about yourself, everything you believe that you're good at, everything that you think that you were put on this earth to do, and it is taken away, it is stripped down, and you are made to believe that you were never actually good at what you're doing. You're not gonna change anything. You're not capable of being transformative or even creating good art, and you never were, and you just got lucky, or your art actually sucked and nobody wanted to tell you. And those things aren't really true. Those aren't true statements. But you still feel like they are because you can't produce the way you want to. And there's all these different factors that go into it. With Dark Souls 3, they basically were telling us, if you want 100 years of Dark Souls, this is what it looks like at the end. They don't hold any of it back. And I think it's so clever for that, because it's no one's favorite. This game is no one's favorite, right? Nobody's ever like, yes, Dark Souls 3 is my favorite. And I won't even say it's my favorite, because by the end of it, I was tired and I wanted to put it to rest. But I respect the hell out of it being able to end on its own terms, because games can't do that anymore. It's so interesting to talk about creative burnout from that perspective, because being able to say this is where this is going to go if you want this to go this long, and we have to end it here so that we can preserve this thing because it's gold. Burnout from success is difficult. It is, because the standard that you accidentally set for yourself now has to be lived up to. I got really lucky, I think, on my 5th video on this channel, and it went a little bit big, like more than my other videos. It's definitely the outlier. And every video since then has underperformed that. And, you know, I'm really trying to do this YouTube thing, and everyone says it's difficult, and it is. But I took a year off from posting because part of it was just I just didn't have the time, really, but also because I just felt like I just felt like I was never going to get back to it, you know? And not getting anywhere close to those numbers makes me feel worthless. It makes me feel like, okay, so I had a lucky strike that kind of went a little bit, and now it's done, and that was nice. But that's not what I want. It's not what anybody wants. Part of why I do this, the main reason why I do this, is because I have all these ideas and thoughts that I can't tell anybody else. And it's not that they're wrong or bad ideas. It's that nobody else cares the way that I care. And people care about me, so they'll listen to me. People in my life care about me, so they'll listen to me say it, but they won't get it. They won't hear it because it's something that they're interested in hearing. They'll hear it because they're interested in me. And that's a really fortunate and blessed position to be in my life. Make no mistake. I'm not taking that for granted one bit. But I'm trying to find the audience of me, the audience of people who care about what I'm saying, because they understand it, because they know what I'm saying. They connect to it. They understand me in a way that only I can understand me. You know what I mean? And not in a weird way, but just like some of these ideas that I get, stuff like, I don't think anybody actually wants Titanfall 3, you know? I don't know how many people actually think that, but I made that video because if I didn't, it would just be burning in my head forever. And I just got to get it out because I just never stop thinking. So I've been really wrestling the last couple of days with how to make this all work. And I don't think the answer is to end it. I'm not going to. It's still very early. I think the answer is to just do it. You know, and I'm spending all this time right now. I have watched so many videos about new creators do this, new creators do that. You can only watch so many of those before the information starts to conflict with itself, right? And I think there's probably some specific ways to optimize things like, okay, if your thumbnail is bad, nobody's going to click on it. That makes sense. But otherwise, I think where we're at right now is you just have to be you, right? And so here I am. If you're feeling burnt out, if you're feeling stuck, a lot of the times it's because you're trying to make a thing that you're trying to make a thing that you don't want to make. Right? And because making a difficult project and a hard doing a hard project and doing a project that you don't want to do are two separate things, right? In my artistic career, I've worked on a project that was difficult. It was a difficult process, but I'm still proud of that work. And that didn't burn me out. It was tiring, but it didn't burn me out. But the ones that burned me out were the ones that I didn't want to do. The ones that I didn't understand and I didn't believe in. And thankfully I haven't had to do one in a long time. But, you know, if I'm making videos that I don't understand and I don't believe in, then what's the point? It's like Dark Souls 4. It shouldn't exist, so it doesn't. I will never forget finishing The Ringed City and understanding what happened. Witnessing an ending to one of my favorite series and knowing it's the ending. There's no cliffhanger. There's no open-ended hook, even if The Ringed City didn't spell it out. Ashes of Andriel. made it pretty clear it was time to burn the series away and start something new. When I think about the franchises that are begging for death, I can't help but feel sorry for them. Call of Duty, World of Warcraft, Assassin's Creed, these games can't keep innovating like they used to because they can't get a break. They can't end because they're still producing big returns on investment. Then the second they aren't worth it anymore, they get tossed aside like Woody in that scene from Toy Story 2 when Andy drops him. Or the entire Watch Dogs franchise when Ubisoft killed it the second Watch Dogs Legion underperformed. What this now means is the game no longer needs to needlessly sit as the middle child, because we can now remember seeing what its weakness brought. It's admirable seeing such a big franchise get to make the call to end things on its own terms and show us what the future of the Souls games would have been like if they had kept making sequels instead of getting crazy with it and branching out. They made the game worse on purpose, failure by design. The fire was finally allowed to go out. It was never linked. All that we can see that it ever was there was the ashes it left behind.